I am in the kitchen today with number one mom, my mom, and we are making
potato asparagus quiche.
And it is delicious. It has puff pastry for the crust and it's so rich and yummy. Can't wait for you to try it. So when I think of Mother's Day, guess who I think of? I think of Mom, which I think of her a lot because she lives across the road from me. So she lives in the generational farmhouse I talk about a lot that my great-grandma and grandpa, my grandma and grandpa, mom and dad. Dad passed away in 2004 and mom has lived there still and I am now across the road. And what I always think is impressive is, this should be celebrated all the time, but Mom gave me confidence in the kitchen. And I know you're probably gonna say, how? I didn't do that. Because she would say that wasn't a big thing for her. But you were always someone that, without question, especially for lunch and dinner or supper, always had a meal together as a family.
Yeah,
and
did.
You would always be in the kitchen. I never thought about the stress you would have in the kitchen or the work it was. You just went in the kitchen and you made things.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was maybe simple things in the summer like taco salad. I just did a video explaining how we would have taco salad a lot in the summer.
Oh, really?
Well, we did.
Yeah,
You would a lot of times come in from the garden and anyway, and she would always have different foods and it was without thought. It was just, you just did it. You just put food on the table, you made it easy, or it seemed easy.
Well, and I always had the vegetables and everything.
Right.
Because I did put everything away. I had stuff in the freezer, I had it canned, we had our own meat.
We really were pioneers, you guys. No, I'm joking. But the one thing you did do every so often too was make a quiche.
Yep.
And you a lot of times would do one without a crust.
Right.
But this one we are gonna do with a simple crust. I'm gonna say it's a shortcut, I think, but it's also gonna encompass asparagus because we have asparagus growing in the garden, both Mom and I. It's gonna have some potato in it. Mom loves potato every so often. And your mom loved potatoes too.
Yes, my mom loved them more than I did.
I know. So this one's gonna kind of encompass some of those wonderful things. And to start, we're gonna do the crust. So I have a pie plate here that is just kind of ready to go. And what I'm going to do is put puff pastry. So you could make your own puff pastry, but you also could not. And so sometimes I think it's easier just to buy it because if you can find now really good all butter puff pastries, and so it's just as good as you would make at home, you thaw it out in the fridge, and then you have this beautiful ready to go puff pastry. Now, the reason we're doing puff pastry in a crust, which usually a quiche is maybe gonna have more of like a pie crust.
Pie crust.
Yeah, which you could do, but puff pastry has that buttery, flaky, I don't know, I just think it's really good. And I'm gonna guess you would think so too. And we're gonna open it up, which the reason you thaw these in the fridge is because if you do them when they're frozen, they could be a little, they could crack easier. And here I have a little crack, but we're also going to be able to cut that off when we put it in the pie pan. So I'm gonna take this and we're just going to lightly roll it just to get the creases out of it. There's no real here rhyme or reason, but we are making sure to get the creases out because those creases are kind of what show that it was folded. And so we just wanna make sure we slightly get those out, but you can tell if we take our pie pan, we're pretty close to the size we need. So puff pastry, once it bakes, what does it get?
Puffy.
Puffy and like all those
Flaky.
layers of butter. And which honestly are flavor. So what we do need to do though is slightly pre-bake it before we fill it. So I have it like this. If you wanna grab the pie pan, bring it just a little closer. We'll just lift this and put it right in. So anytime you're working with a dough, you don't wanna jam it in, but you wanna, like Mom's doing, lift it and let it fall in because that means it will not shrink as much when we put it in the oven, which we have a couple other things we'll do to make sure. But see, you can see it's nicely placed down in, and now we'll just go around with a knife, and we're just gonna cut off this excess. Now this excess you can bake separately. You could make little like Danish with it. You could just make little puff pastry, like brush it with butter and put cinnamon sugar on it. You would always do that with all your pie crust.
Pie crust.
And it's kind of the same idea. And so Mom used to make pies.
You can also just take a little
All
bit
the time.
of jelly and put it in
Ooh, that would be good.
and fold it over and have this little.
I think people like Mom always don't realize the impact they can have by just cooking all the time and making it feel comfortable, because that's what makes, I think, it comfortable for myself and for my sister a lot. But now what we have is, we have this perfectly just formed in the pan, and now Mom got me started on pie. This is what we bake pies on. You could also do it on a parchment lined baking sheet, but what this does is it catches any drips, because like I said, this is an all butter crust, which means it's gonna drip out. So what we're gonna do to make sure that it doesn't puff up too much, because if we would put it in just like this, oh, I actually need to grab a fork too, but if we would put it in just like that, it would puff up all over.
And
you
it
don't
would
want
no
that.
longer be flat on the bottom, which makes it very...
And that's why we're gonna also dock it. So this is just making sure to leave places for the steam and the air to escape. So as it is baking, it doesn't puff too much. So instead of pie weights, we're gonna put a piece of parchment on it. We're gonna put another pie plate that just fits down into it. And what this will do is help it so it doesn't just out.
Yeah, puff out. Yeah.
So now we're gonna put this in the oven.
And it won't, sometimes you have trouble. Do these kinds shrink like a pie crust does?
This, thankfully, with the pie plate in it and the puff itself doesn't shrink quite as bad, but yeah, that would help that as well. So we're gonna put this in the oven, we're gonna clean up a bit, and then we'll get the ingredients ready to put inside of it. So I'm chopping up some onion for the filling, and then we'll chop up some potato, but we just wanna pre-cook all this because when you put it in with the egg, you don't ever cook the egg quite as long as like a potato would take or as the onion would take. And yes, sometimes, you know, it would make sense just to saute potato and onion, say, but this, to me, roasting is just always gonna be easier because you don't have to actually have any of the mess. So I am someone that always is pro roasting. Now I peel my potato. You don't always need to peel them. Mom saw some green on it. So we always just wanna take the green off because everyone says that that's bad for us. And as Mom says, why chance it?
Well, we're going to have to do research on it. Because I'd like to know if that's true or
I've
not.
always heard that that's
or
a
if it's
thing.
an old wives' tale, because my mother made me take the green off.
Well, moms know best, so we'll just go with that.
Yeah.
If you want to drizzle on some oil, we're just going to drizzle on some oil, and we're going to pop this in the oven. Now, the potatoes and the onion, I would say.
Is that enough?
Yeah, I think that's good. We'll take a little bit longer. If you want to, yeah, just kind of mush that up. And then spread them out to somewhat of an even layer. They're either gonna take a little bit longer than the asparagus. I don't like the asparagus to get mushy.
No, I don't either.
I like roasted asparagus, but I don't like it to be mushy. So we're gonna make sure to douse it with some salt. And you know, the thing with salt, you wanna salt at every layer because that's what's gonna make sure in the end you have a really well-seasoned dish. So we're gonna put some pepper on it too. I know, Mom. This is where I get my love for black pepper. Mom
I love
loves-
black pepper.
And your mom, Grandma Conrad, loved it, like cottage cheese.
Yeah.
Always would serve cottage cheese with a good heat.
Tomatoes?
Oh yeah, you don't like raw tomatoes.
No, but the other people put it on nice.
People
No,
that
I'm
do.
learning. I'm learning.
Do
I
you
love
really?
them
Do
on
you
a
know?
sandwich. I just,
Right, but you would never just eat a tomato.
well, no, on a salad.
We'll have to work on it. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll do a
on a
video on
salad.
testing tomato types that I'm growing in the garden. So we're gonna put this in the oven, let it roast for a while alongside while the the crust
Crust.
is baking too, and then we'll add the asparagus and then we'll make the filling. You can wash your hands in the sink if you need to. So I'm just pulling out the potatoes and the onions. They're just par baked. They're not fully done yet because we now want to put the asparagus with them. So if you want to hand me the asparagus, I always keep the asparagus when I get it in from the garden. Mom, I think, does this too, but in a glass of water because it continues to grow. It keeps it hydrated. It doesn't get dried off like the ones you buy in the store, which
Yeah, and they're
I know, and
tough
then they're
when you go
gross,
to bake.
I know. And then Mom's gonna start by getting the eggs, milk, and cream in there ready to go. So as we're doing this, since I am using, like I said, my fresh asparagus, I'm gonna admit, it's really wonderful. You can buy fresh or at like a farmer's market. I'm gonna do slight, maybe like bite-sized pieces, but I don't have to worry about cutting any off the bottom because it's all nice and like hydrated. It doesn't have any of that dryness that it would, if you're gonna get it from the grocery store. So I'm just gonna spread it out on here. And this is just gonna, I'm gonna just toss it because there's some of that residual oil down in there already. If you see a big piece, don't feel bad, just break that up. Because this to me is the essence of what you want right now.
Do you want this beaten?
We'll beat it here in a minute with a mixer because I wanna kind of incorporate some other things into it. But what we're gonna do now is pop this back into the oven, which it's gonna keep roasting. And then we can really finish up with the egg mixture. So in with what Mom's doing, she's putting milk and then some heavy cream. So when you're doing a quiche, you want that whole, kind of that wonderful combination of richness, but also just good egg flavor. It's real heavy cream, so you might have to shake it to get some of that out of there. But you want that ratio of all that goodness in there. So what I'm doing to this is I'm getting the cream and the milk, which Mom's pouring in. There's a little bit of cornstarch here that you can throw in too. And that's really gonna add that good kind of binder, and it kind of is gonna make sure that it has the right texture. It's just kind of a little bit of a cheat that gives you, to me, a really good texture to it. So the one way I also like to make sure I have a good richness to it is
Cream cheese.
cream cheese. It just adds, one, a little tang, but it also adds a nice richness. So I'm gonna take an immersion blender. You could do this with a normal blender too, but this just ensures that the eggs and the cream cheese and everything are smooth. So this is smooth, this is creamy, the cornstarch is mixed into it. So now all we need to do is wait for our vegetables to finish up.
Yep.
Our crust will pull out, we'll put it all together, put it back in the oven.
And then we get to eat it.
Oh, you think you want to eat some? We pulled the crust and the vegetables out. So the crust, what I did in about the last 10 to 15 minutes of baking, I pulled out that insert that I had the parchment and the pie pan on, set it on the stove, so the bottom could get nicely browned, but you can see what happens here. You get this puff, it's beautiful. We had to do no work, which is what's nice, I think, personally. So now we're just gonna build the inside of it. So we have these vegetables. We have it's onions, sweet potatoes, asparagus. I'm just gonna pop them right in there.
Sweet potato?
Not sweet potato,
As I
you're
say,
right.
regular potato.
Regular white.
But you could have used sweet potato.
You could use sweet potato. And I have a quiche actually, I think on the website with that. So we can just spread those out. Mom has some sausage here and it's pre-cooked. We may not need all of it, but this is where you can really customize this. Like Mom said, you could do sweet potato. You could change the meat. It could be more of a bacon. I know. Welcome to Iowa, where we think of bacon and sausage. And then I have some Parmesan cheese that I shredded, and I just want to put that on it again. What cheese do you like? You know, it can really...
Couldn't you actually have done like crab or something? Could you?
Crab? Oh, you could...
Wouldn't have it? How
Yeah,
would
you
that
could.
be
Yeah,
good?
you could. Yeah, you could do crab. If you want to elevate this and make it a
I
little
think we
bit
can
more...
use all the meat.
Oh, okay, we have to pour on the egg, Mom, but okay.
It's almost gone.
Mom likes to use
I
it all.
do. I love meat.
What I do want to do before we put the
unfortunately.
egg on is make sure we season it with some salt and some pepper. Mom, I try to go meatless on some meals when I have Mom over. And Mom always reminds me that...
There's no meat.
Where's the meat, Caleb? So since this is Mother's Day, in celebration of, I made sure that we had plenty.
I like things that are meatless. I do
You do.
I grew up with meat a lot. But no, I'm learning that I don't.
Well, you like good quality anymore too, and
I'm
make
learning
sure.
I don't need meat all the time.
Right.
I love vegetables way more than I used
Right.
to.
So we're gonna fill this up. We can't fill it up quite all the way since we wanted all the meat and all the vegetables, but that's fine.
Hey,
We'll
you
bake this
almost
extra
can.
separate.
You got room yet?
Ooh, we don't want to make it too much, Mom, because it doesn't.
Do you want me to take out some of the meat and stuff?
No, now it has the raw. What would you do with it?
Put it in here and bake it separate.
Oh
is
no,
what
it'll
I
be
meant.
fine. We'll just bake this separate and have a little bit of an extra quiche.
With the crust that we didn't use.
With the crust we didn't use that Mom wants to make sure we use somehow. So we're gonna pop this back in the oven. The crust will actually finish baking now, get even crispier, and it will just be a beautiful quiche. I'm going to open the oven door because this is kind of a big, once it's filled, you don't want to have lots of movement. So we're gonna be able to move it over there, pop it in, and then we'll actually try it. So we pulled this out a few minutes ago to let it cool. Now the big thing with a quiche or any egg thing, you don't want to get it overdone.
Right.
So if you get it overdone and you bake it too long, it will tighten the egg proteins and then it will kind of seep, kind of this like watery liquid. You don't want that. So you want it to be just slightly jiggly in the center. And then as it cools, guess what? It finishes baking. And I think that's always the important thing people need to realize is it finishes baking. So we're gonna cut through. Oh, look at this. This is so pretty. We're gonna cut through. And this is what I love about this crust too. It's just such a pretty kind of tender crust. And it gives you a little bit more of a lightness to it. So Mom was chopping up some chives and some cheese. That's just, guys, that's just garnish. So it's honestly whatever. You have to make sure you cut through. Just chives and cheese. And that's just more of a garnish. Because the thing is when you're going to this, you just want to make sure, oh yeah, look at that. Look at that gorgeousness. So do you see how it's like creamy? That's the cream cheese in it. And you want all that goodness there. So some cheese, thank you, Mother. I just like a good little hit of cheese. And the chives we pulled from the garden. Just gonna say it. And we're gonna share a piece if that's okay, because I figure on camera, we're not all gonna go to town on this. But the best part is to share it. And this is a great thing. You don't have to make it for Mother's Day. You can make it for a brunch, a lunch. I personally love quiche anytime. And that to me is just, You may want to go down the other way. Sorry, it's awkward when someone else holds it for you. You can make it really for whatever kind of occasion or not you want. And that's the best part of it. Was it good? It's really, it's like umptious. That cream cheese. Oh, that's good. That cream cheese with the potato especially. That's really good. It has a creaminess to it.
Yeah.
And what I like is you taste the asparagus,
You taste the sausage.
you taste the sausage, and you really get this beautiful creamy egg to it. And there's a good amount of pepper in it.
Yeah.
Other people may not want so much pepper as Mom and
That's
I,
not
but
too much pepper.
what I also like is that crust.
Yeah, that was good.
It's flaky, buttery.
And the potato still is
Yeah, it's like tender, but not mushy.
No,
it's not mashed
not at
potato,
all.
which is good.
No, that was fabulous.
Guys, I think we have star reviews from Mom.
Yeah, we
That's
do.
good.
We do.
So what do Mom and I hope you do with this? One, we hope you appreciate your mothers or the mothers in your lives, because it's
That's
not
right.
always a mom.
Right.
Maybe you
Right.
don't have a mom in your life, but you have someone that
Yeah.
acts as a mother figure.
Right.
Or maybe you have a friend that acts as a mother figure to other people, and just to appreciate
Right.
them more.
Right.
Because my mom is always so good at recognizing the people in life that aren't recognized. She's someone that doesn't talk about it, but I always have heard her talk about, I wonder who is with blank on Mother's Day, or them or that. And I think that's important too, to think about
The people that don't have. Yeah.
what did Mr. Rogers always say? Look at the helpers. Look for the helpers.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's the mom. So,
Yeah.
we hope that you enjoy a quiche, enjoy your mothers, and share this recipe around. Because when you share these recipes, it helps me, but it helps others see how easy and fun this can be, whether you're doing it in the kitchen with someone or by yourself. So check my website, wiseguide.com, for this recipe and any of my other recipes. I have some others with Mom on there too. So, happy Mother's Day, Mom. I love ya.
Love you.